Welcome to Life with Jason, episode 120. For the new to come, we have to let go of the old. This is something that has been so profound in my life, is learning to let go of things. And it's not just the material things, it's the way I perceive life, the way I used to view things, the way I used to think things. And so join me today as I explore what it means to let go of the old so I can embrace the new. One of the most challenging things about growing as an individual and as a person is learning to let go of things. There are so many things in our lives that we are comfortable with. Even the way we think and perceive the world around us becomes a source of comfort. And one of the things that I have learned, which is very challenging for me, is to let go. It could be the way I see something or perceive it. It could be the way that I think about something. It could be the way I think about myself. It could very well even be in some of the things that I believe. It could be very well the way that I do things, the actions that I used to take. There's so many different variables when you're on a journey for growth that have to change. Because growth doesn't come without change. Growth doesn't come without challenge and perseverance. Growth doesn't come without letting go. And so for the new to come, for the new to arrive, whether it be for yourself as an individual, whether it be for your family or for your marriage, or whether it be for society as a whole. Because all these things are expanding and changing all the time around us. You know, there's a famous saying, the good old days, right? When you look back at the past and you think of the fun times that you've had with friends and family and doing activities and stuff like that. Oh, if I could only just go back to the good old days. But at some point you had to let go of those activities, those things, because you had to move on to the next point of your life. And where you are today is not where you were yesterday. And where you are today is not where you're going to be in the future. And so life is a cycle of letting go and embracing the new. And so today I wanted to talk about that. About letting go of the old thing, those old habits, those old paradigms, those old beliefs. I think one of the reasons why it gets so difficult at times to let go, at least in my own personal life, is we get comfortable. You get comfortable being in this one spot. And it becomes kind of like a security blanket. And you're like, okay, well, I'm in a good spot right now. And so I don't want to leave this space because of fear. Because you don't know what's going to happen on the other side. What is this change going to look like in my life? Is it going to be for the better or is it going to be for the worse? Where I've got it good now, why would I want to rock the boat, so to say? Oh. But I find it interesting how No matter how much we want to stay in one spot, to stay stagnant, life has a way of throwing curveballs at you and kind of forcing you to change. I think of several people I know right now who are battling cancer and are going through huge discomfort because their bodies are doing things that even just a few short months ago it wasn't doing. There's a lot of pain and discomfort. And it makes you wonder, like, well, how does that equate to what I'm talking about? Well, if a few short months ago you were not dealing with cancer and you're living your life and your body seemed normal and healthy, and now all of a sudden, boom, your body's doing all these other things, it forces you to change. Forces you to change how you see things, how you perceive things. How just a few moments ago it seemed like you're healthy and doing well and living a good life. And all of a sudden you're in pain. You're in discomfort. And your body is doing things that you don't know what's going on. So it produces a sense of fear, almost. Discomfort. It forces you to change how you perceive life because it becomes so fragile in a moment. And it's not something that you did, per se. It could have been. I don't know the situation. I don't know the scenario fully. So I can't speak into that. Nor do I want to make any assumptions. But we all go through these things in life. You're happily married one day. Next thing you know, there's strife and struggle, and you're divorced. All these different things that come alongside us in life are a part of that change and that growth process. And it can be painful, emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually. And in those moments that we are going through these things, we have to make a decision. Am I going to continue doing the same thing? Am I going to continue to live the same way? Am I going to continue to be the same person? Or am I going to let go of some of those old things that I was doing that brought me to the place to where I am now? Are you even willing to look at your life in that moment of whatever you're going through to say, hey, wait a second, maybe something has to change here. It's not about being a good person or a bad person. It's about just life. And it doesn't have to be something bad either. I mean, there are good things that happen in our life that force us to change. A new job opportunity. An opportunity to move to a new location, to a new part of the world, to learn about new people, to make new friendships. All these things are things that force us to change in some way. But in order to to embrace the new, we have to let go of the old. 24 years ago, 24 and a half years ago, I moved from my home province of British Columbia to Alberta. Why? Well, at the time it was a job opportunity, so I could provide for the young family that I was starting. My girlfriend at the time, who became my wife, was pregnant, and I needed to be the man of the home. I needed to provide for the family. And I didn't have a job. Or the job I had didn't have much work for me available. And so I moved. And now 24 years later, here I am. It's not easy to let go of things. I know that. In that previous example, I had to leave family and friends behind. I had to leave those people closest to me behind and step out in faith and forge a new path, meet new friends, embrace new family. I had to step out of my comfort zone and embrace the world around me as it changed. Go from a relatively mild climate in the lower mainland of BC to an environment that can be quite harsh at times. Move from an environment in the wintertime where you get more rain than snow because the temperatures are usually that warm. And maybe the coldest it gets is about -10, to an environment where you can get -30 to -40 degrees Celsius and have to work outside in it. So why is letting go of the old so important? Why is it? It's important because for us to be able to move forward, that's the only way to be able to move forward. We have a changing world in front of us. It is changing at a rapid pace. It's changing from a political mindset, it's changing from a social mindset, and there is a spiritual war going on. There's no two ands, ifs, and buts about it. We see it. We see it coming. It's been happening for a while. It's been building up. And there is resistance. There's huge resistance, and there's some things that were I don't believe the change is healthy. But I also believe that those things that want to make the unhealthy change are the things that are actually going to disappear. Because more and more people are awakening to the old systems that were corrupt, that were fallible, that were destroying the very fabric of who we are as people on this planet. And I'm not going to say that these people that are doing this stuff are all evil. I think a lot of these people that are pushing for a lot of this stuff are very noble, honest people who have caught up in an ideology that they believe for themselves is the right path. And who am I to say that it isn't for them? I know that in my own heart, I feel like some of those pathways will lead to their ultimate destruction. Just like what I was doing in my marriage, the part that I played, the role that I played, ultimately led to the destruction of that marriage. And now that I'm on the other side of the divorce, and I've been forced to face and feel and go through everything that I went through to get to where I am today, I'm a different man in so many respects. There are still old parts of me that want to creep in, and I'm battling that every single day. Don't get me wrong, I am. And it's not in the sense of a hatred for the old self. It's about learning to love the old self, to see where I was, but also learning to love and embrace the new version of myself that is coming forth, that is waiting to be fully enacted, enabled, and embraced. And that is a part of my letting go journey, is letting go of my old perceptions, even the new perceptions of the old version of myself. I gotta let go of those. Because it's so easy to say, Jason, I don't like that old you. But that old me was a part of who I am. It was a part of my journey, it was a part of my story. So I still have to love that old version of myself just as much as I gotta love the new version that I'm growing into. But just because I love the old version of myself doesn't mean that I hold on to it. You see where I'm going there? Because that old version of me doesn't serve me anymore. And so the question becomes, for those of you who continue to watch and listen to what I'm saying here, is what part of you do you have to let go of and embrace and say, I love you, but you no longer serve me? You're no longer doing me what I need. You no longer are doing for me what I need to move forward. So it's time for me to say goodbye. What other things in your life, whether it be a job, your belief system, your perception of the world around us. See, all these things play into it. For us to embrace the new, we have to let go of the old. For our social structure and society to change for the better, we have to let go of the old ways of doing things as a society. To get rid of the corruption, we have to stop being corrupt. And that means we have to evaluate ourselves and look at ourselves and be willing to say, you know what, this is where I was enabling this to take place. Because believe it or not, we all play a role in how this works. The whole COVID pandemic, or whatever you want to call it, was a great example of that. You see, I didn't stand up as strong as I could have. And I'm not going to belittle myself or say, you know, Jason, you should have done better. No, it's not about that. There was a lot more to think about in all of that. I spoke up. I did stand for myself to a certain degree. But I had to weigh the balance in what I was doing. I had to show that I was not for what was happening, but I also had to embrace the fact that there were many people who couldn't see past what was really going on. So the best I could do, and I believe it was the best that I was able to do, was just to talk about it, to try to bring awareness around it. And now that we're on the other side of it, more and more people actually see the truth to what was really going on, or see a sharper version of what was really going on. They may not fully embrace the whole idea of what was going on, but they have a clearer picture and they're more willing to say no the next time. Because too many things didn't add up. Too many things weren't making sense. Too many things seemed out of place. And while you're in the middle of it and you're caught up in the idea of fear, because that's what they were pushing on all of us, it was hard to see. Because what does fear produce? Fear produces a sense of, I gotta protect myself. I gotta protect those around me. And so if that means I have to do such and such because this supposed expert says that this is what I've got to do to protect myself and my loved ones, then I'm going to do it. Even if it doesn't fully seem to make sense to me. But then when you get to the other side and you're like, wait a second, and you start getting glimpses of new information because the pressure has died down. And you can see more clearly because you're no longer in that fear mode. You start to realize, wait a second, it wasn't at all what they said it was. Or it wasn't nearly what they said it was. Which brings you closer to the idea that there always was a different perception. Maybe those people who were saying all these things weren't so out of their mind after all. And everybody's on their own journey. I'm not saying that we're all going to just wake up and go, and be all there. Because I sure as hell am not. I'm still on the journey, learning every day about part of myself that I've got to let go of, about part of my views, part of my belief system, part of everything that I've known in life up to this point. It's part of me that I've got to let go so that I can embrace the new. And that's going to look different for every one of us. Because we're all on an individual journey. We're all, in a sense, writing our own story. And I've learned some interesting things about writing our own story. That has opened up my perspective to new things. Because we are meant to be eternal beings, beings without death, eternal life. And so, understanding that and thinking about what that is brings up all sorts of questions. And I realize not all of you will believe the same thing or come to the same conclusions that I have. But if we are meant to be eternal beings, does that mean that we've always been eternal? It's a good question. And if we've always been eternal, does that mean that the script that we're going through in this life, if not complete, it's not completely scripted, but did we pre-plan some of the events that were going to happen in our life? Did we predestine some of the people that we're going to interact with in our lifetime? And then start this life here, playing out this story, not knowing how it's truly going to play out, only knowing that there's going to be key points within our lifetime that is going to teach us and mold us and develop us into a greater version of who we are on a spiritual level? Is that possible? Being a creation of God, being made in God's own image, what does that look like? What does that really look like? See, for many of us, we have a hard time asking these questions and looking for answers to those questions, because we get trapped in this old idea of thinking that we're just this being that is here walking through life hoping to get to heaven one day, that we don't have to experience the darkness of hell and the separation from God. But if God designed us and created us in His image, He breathed into us He was there when the sperm and ova came together in conception and sparked that new life being of who we are into existence. He was there at that moment as we entered into that state to develop and grow into the newborn baby, to mature to where we are now in life. He's been there every step of the way. Not interfering in a way that takes away our own free will, but guides us, nudges us, directs us. And if we choose to pay attention, we become sensitive to those nudgings. We become sensitive to hearing what He has to say. I believe Jesus came to teach us a new way to see life, to see who we are as a human being, to see a new way of who we are as a created being and our true connection to God. And I think a lot of His teachings get clouded from very old theology that is designed not for the betterment of us, but for the hindrance of us. See where all this is going. When I say that we have to let go of the old to embrace the new, for the new to come, the old, we have to say goodbye to the old, is exactly that. If we're created in the image of God, God is the ultimate creator of everything, the one true source of all things. And if that means that he created everything. And he's the source of all things. That means he created us. And if he created us in his own image, and he's the ultimate creator, I've said this before, that makes us creators. And that's where I've been going with this last part of the story, is if we are creators, because we're made in the image of God as a creator, then we are creating our own life story every step of the way. And so things aren't, in a sense, predestined fully. Because like I said, even if it is true, which I do believe there's merit to it, that before we enter this life that we see right now before us, that we are in right now, that we orchestrate a part of what is going on in the life around us, and that we're going to say from here to here, these things are going to happen. We don't know how, we don't know where, we don't know when, but they will happen. And these things that you're going to walk through in your life are going to develop you in some way. And then you're implanted in here, and you go through the whole process of being knit in the womb, to being born and brought to life, to growing up as a fully dependent child into an independent human being, which some of us don't get to that independent part. But the whole journey through all that is all a series of choices that we make. You see, I could have chose to stay in BC 24 years ago and find another job and stay out there and support my family out there and live my life out there. But I chose to come to Alberta. I could have chose to listen to some of my friends that didn't think that the relationship I was getting into was good for me, and said, no, okay, fine, I will pass and I'll wait for somebody else to come along. There's so many things that I could have chosen at different points in my life, but the choices I made led to where I am today. And so through those choices that I made, I was creating the life that I'm living right now, that fit in to the story that I would have created before I came here. So if therein lies the point of the whole thing of letting go of the old so that the new can come, it's about making new choices. It's about choosing to change our perspectives on things so that we can move on and go forward in life. And ultimately, I believe it's all to go down and become the better version of ourselves. And if that is the case, then is there such thing as a bad decision? Right? Is there such thing as a bad decision then at that point? Because if it's all about learning and a growth experience, then every decision we make puts us in a point of that growth experience. Whether it's choosing to eat healthy or choosing to eat poorly. If we continue to choose to eat poorly, eventually our body's going to say, you know what, enough. And it's going to react. If we choose to eat healthily, our body most likely will respond in a better way. But it's all choices that we make. So everything that we do in life is a choice. And so, for the new to come, we have to let go of the old. What are some of those old things in your life that you need to let go of? Think about that. Ponder on that. What steps do you need to take to let go of those old things so that you can embrace the new? That's the journey that I've been on. That's the journey I take every single day of my life. Until next time, Much love.